the group we're opening for. And another funny story, going to the airport, we get there, right? And we get ready to go on the plane. Flav, he pulls up in a light blue Corvette, parks in front of the Corvette, jumps on the hood. Yeah, boy, doing his favorite Flav dance. Yeah, on the top of the Corvette, jumped off the Corvette. This is the first time we met him. The second time we met him. Jumped off the Corvette, went into the terminal, left the car there, like getting told was his parking. So that was a story that I remember on that tour. And that's the show that we was going to in Seattle. And then Brett spit that Lucifer, and when he got off stage, my man Chuck was like, yo, he told Brett, he said, yo, that was the dopest shit I've ever seen. And coming from Chuck D from PE, and they had a great show. It was one of the biggest compliments we could have ever had gotten. And it was because this one white guy in the audience was sitting there and basically made us do Lucifer, which we wasn't in our game plan, didn't have it on we didn't rehearse it or nothing. He made us do it, and that was the first time the world got exposed to Lucifer live.
When it was all said and done, were you pleased with that first album?
No. When it was all said and done, you gotta realize yes and no. Let me rephrase that. There was a lot of elements on that first album that was us. There was a lot of elements that was the record label. Drums of Steel was the record label. That wasn't us. It was originally, the concept was we were going to actually have steel drums on it, live steel drums. But instead, Andy the drummer got on it through Joe the Butcher, and it became dope. But the point was, it wasn't supposed to be our first single, our lead single. It was a concept song to kind of do marketing. It was a marketing song, which we learned to enjoy, but it wasn't us. We're from East New York, Brooklyn. We were doing Wild. We were doing, now that was the first time we had the opportunity to do East New York stuff. So it wasn't that I was dissatisfied with the album. I was dissatisfied with the way they laid it out. Like I told you earlier, had they come with Coolin' in Cali video, and we were sitting on the beach with chicks and all of that during the video, and how these two Brooklyn cats and this one Queens cat was interacting, now we Coolin' in Cali, that would have been a better segue, and I would have been more satisfied. So it wasn't the material I was unsatisfied with, it was the layout. And seeing that I became an executive, I understood that a lot more, even better, after being an executive and having to promote and lay out albums for people.
Gotcha. So at this point, the album does what it does. You're getting ready for album number 2. What happens at this point?
Oh, nothing. What happens is David Geffen, I think he signed us as well as Silk Times Leather, which was Jermaine Dupri's first group that he was producing. He signed Christopher Williams. He signed David Peaston. I think he signed, he already had Donna Summers. He had Cher. He had Guns N' Roses. He had Whitesnake. So I think he signed us just to give a broader spectrum of music that he was able to have on his label. And because ultimately he merged his label with MCA, and that was when he became a billionaire. He became 51% owner of MCA. That threw him into the threshold of becoming a billionaire, and this was in the 80s. And then we were now on MCA technically, no longer on Geffen. And so we had the second album deal, which now is going through MCA. And so at that time, Ernie Singleton was the president. Our second album, Barry Hankerson started managing us, and Barry and Ernie were boys. So while we was on a tour doing plays with Barry, Muggs was over here doing Cypress Hills with B&M, and we was out on tour with doing plays with Barry Hankerson because he was producing plays. And so when we came out, we did the second album, and it was kind of starting to get dated in our ears because we had did it maybe about a year or so prior to us sitting down with MCA. So when we got over to MCA, that's when it was starting to become a problem with the second album because they didn't know what to do with rap. They had BBD, they had New Edition. I'm sorry, they didn't have BBD. They had New Edition at the time. They had R&B artists. Christopher Williams did well with MCA. But at all the hip-hop acts, they didn't know what to do. We were the hip-hop act. And so basically was sitting there telling them what to do, but it was a cat named Brute Bailey telling them what to do, but they didn't really get it. They was more into R&B and laying out a game plan for R&B artists. And here it was, these hip-hop guys, and not to mention our second album had a lot of controversial music on it. And so I think what ultimately happened, we sat with Ernie Singleton. Ernie Singleton, they was putting out the album. Picked the single. The single was going to be Hot, 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 produced by Spider-Man and Freeze. B-side, Pledge Allegiance, produced by Muggs, his first production. Outside of him doing a remix, it goes like this. So we were going to come out with that A and B side. We did the album cover. We did the pictures. We had everything. Album even came out, or the single even came out overseas. All of a sudden, I asked Ernie face to face when I first met him, yo, if you're not going to do this album, let us go now so we can shop it before it gets too old. He promised Barry, he promised us, oh no, don't worry about it, it's all good, we're going to put it out. And so I took his word for it. Come some time later around Christmas, we got the news from Ernie, oh, it's not coming out. I was heated at that point because I specifically asked him, what if? Or let us go. And so the story that I told people when I was now leaving the industry, because at that point I realized it was a shallow ass industry and they were messing with my life. So I kind of left the industry at that point. But I saw Ernie Singleton at a Gladys Knight concert. And I had a razor in my mouth. And I was spitting the razor and I'm sitting there like, yo, I'm ready to open this cat up, man. Because he is the one that I specifically asked, yo, if you don't want us, let us go now. And he assured me, oh yeah, we got it, we got it. And I saw him and I was looking at him like he was just this fake bull crap person. And so I wanted to do harm to him. But because it was a Gladys Knight concert, and my brother also was there, he was like, yo, you want some bull? Gladys Knight was married to Barry Hankerson, who was our manager. So couldn't do anything because that's our manager. It will disrupt our manager's show, our manager's wife's show. We had already met Gladys, was hanging out at Gladys' house, Barry's house, which was Gladys and Barry. So I couldn't do nothing like that. And God bless it that I did, you know, because that was the East New York in me trying to take lead. And I'm like, yo, I would have ruined my life. But the point being is is how we transitioned in the second album. And that's what happened to the second album. It got shelved. But in hindsight, now there's 2020, I think we got blackballed because the material on the B side of that Hot, 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 which was the single, the label, and we had learned, give the label what they want so you could do what you want to do. From the first album that you just told me and how they laid it out, we was like, all right, we're going to give it to them, but we're going to put what we want on the B side. And the first single on the B side was a song called Pledge Allegiance. And in Pledge Allegiance, it was, but Miss Still Pledge Allegiance in America. And it was an it would apply right now. My verse was like, police to protect and serve is the object, not to harass and make life hectic, abuse of authority. That shit must cease. That's why so many say, fuck the police. Wearing a hat doesn't make me a suspect. The accusation is a form of disrespect. I wear a hoodie with some Timberland boots. Does that make me less honest than a man in a suit? They violate my rights whenever they can. That's why a badge is too much power for men, but they still pledge allegiance in America. So that was my verse. My brother's verse was something along one of his verses. One of his verses was like, War, what is it good for? Is it the economy or kill off the poor? Question posed to me by a Vietnam vet. Said he'd been to hell. How worse could it get? Say he's seen his men just splattered into bits, loaded his clip, and then a child was hit. Now every night when he closes his eyes, he sees the mother cry as the baby dies. But me still pledge allegiance. And so that was part of where we were going with our second album. And so the end of my brother's verse said, the story's twisted, but I break it down with fact. The Pope knows that the prophets were black, but me still pledge allegiance in America. So we did a whole song. They didn't hear or listen to that song until after they had already put hot in motion. And I think what happened, because of how we were controversial, how controversial the lyrics were, somebody at the label got wind of the lyrics and put it to a cease and was like, we ain't messing with it. Because that was just one song. We also had a song called Liberty or Death. We also had a song called True Kings or Queens. True Kings and Queens. So Liberty or Death was, give me liberty or give me death. Give me you know, and that was my brother. He is ill with it. He went in. My mother cried, but she lost me to, man, if you heard that, it's just, it was incredibly gifted and talented. And those were Mug's first production. That was Mug's first production. Our second album was going to be the launch of Cypress Hill and Funkdoobiest. Matter of fact, some of the lyrics that was on our second album, Be Real, used on the first album of Cypress Hills. The song that inspired Killer Man was a song called Click, Click, Bang, Bang that we didn't put on the second album, but my brother did, and it was on Mug's track, and Muggs loved the song. Would play for everybody. Say, yo, you want to be you want to hear this is the type of stuff you got to do, and that's what I feel inspired how I could just kill a man. Brett wrote. That's another studio session. I remember when Brett wrote. Shoot. I'll get back to it. But Brett wrote Hand on the Pump by Cypress Hills. I remember the night Brett wrote it. I remember the night we was all in the Barham Oakwood apartments, and I was in the room with my girl writing my verse to 7 MCs, which was the song that had myself, Mac Daddy J, which was Kid J that I grew up with in Linden Houses, Son Doobie, Be Real, Sin Dog, my brother, and T-Funk at the time, which is Tomahawk Funk from Funkdoobiest. So it was called 7 MCs. That was going to be the launch of Cypress into the industry. And I remember the night I was writing my verse on was the night Brett and was in the living room writing Hand on the Pump. Be Real, man. Be Real was there. Brett was there. Brett was right Hand on the Pump. So he started it off with, I'm an alley cat. Some say a dirty rat. On my side is my cat, because that was Brett. So the shotgun, hand on the pump, left hand on the 40, puffing on the bump. That was Brett. And I remember writing that with 7 MCs. And I remember on 7 MCs, I was the type of MC, unlike nowadays, where I didn't want to outshine those who were being featured on the album. So I was having a hard time trying to write something and dumb it down, so that I wouldn't outshine the Sun, or I wouldn't outshine a Be Real, or I wouldn't outshine anybody who was on that record. And that was difficult for me. And I remember my verse was like, well, I'm Sean B, second to the youngest being son. Out of 7 who have come here, I'm just one of them. But anyway, I just basically, I dumbed it down so that they could shine, right. You know, because I always wanted my people to shine. And, you know, nobody knew that they were going to have the super success that they had. But I knew that I was going to do whatever I could to help them be that successful. So on you, I'm going to stop talking.
Oh, you're good. Actually, Instagram's giving us about 5 minutes before we get kicked off of here. Can you catch us up to what you've been up to these days and how you've been staying busy?
Absolutely. We have a water company called My Beverages. We have a CBD water. We have a electrolyte infused water, and that's my partner Marvin Green, who's I saw you on him, as well as my brother. We put that together. We also have done through my partner once again through Media Heist. Follow him at Media Heist TV at Media Heist TV. We did We Are the Bouldins. I'm not sure if you went on my page, but I've been putting out episodes called We Are the Bouldins, which is a brainchild of Marvin Green. We also did Welcome to Doobie Land, which is my brother, myself, Son Doobie, and we explored through the eye of Marvin Green and Media Heist. We explored the world of cannabis, the cannabis world, medicinal as well as recreational. And we explored all of the benefits and interviewed people in that world, interviewed artists, interviewed companies, interviewed people who were in it, doctors who were in that world. And so we're doing Welcome to Doobie Land, we're doing We Are the Boldins, we're doing My Beverages, and my brother's working on a 783 album. Shh, don't tell nobody, because he's producing. I haven't been creating, but I'm also writing. I'm also writing not just lyrics, but I'm writing in general, and I'm planning to share that with the world as well under Sean Bouldin. So those are the things we're doing. We have Instagram pages. My brother's is at BB783. We have at Media Heist TV, AMediaHeist TV. I have at Sean Bouldin. I have at Sean B_783_Bouldin. We have My Beverages, which is my_beverages. And last but not least, I have the 783 page, the 783. So that's what I'm doing. I had a brief stint where I was managing people. I managed Malverde. I managed Son Doobie at one point. I managed quite a few folks. I do still do consulting for people in the music industry, for record labels and/or artists, from those experiences of being an executive and a manager in the business part of it. So I do consulting under Mumum Entertainment, and that's what we're doing.
What can we expect from you in the near future, as far as any projects you're working on, as other than what you just mentioned?
Specifically, My Beverages, we'll be doing some flavored CBD water. We'll be doing some waters. You can expect some collaborations with Media Heist. We Are the Bouldins. I think we're going to explore that further. We just started putting it out there during COVID, so we haven't been able to film, as well as with Welcome to Doobie Land. We're going to put a different spin and maybe add some other elements to it other than ourselves. So we're going to be doing that. I'm writing a book just where I'm touching on opinions and ideas of how I view life. It's not about the industry. It's not about me per se. It's just about principles. I'm a Christian guy. I'm a very firm believer in the Lord, and I lead through His eyes, and I plan to share that with folks who are interested, and also putting the spin of the industry in there. So it won't be religious based, and it won't be Christian based, but it will be principle based, and it will be life based. So I'll be doing some things that will be touching on life and touching on the good, the bad, and the ugly of life, as well as the good, the bad, and the ugly of the industry and my experiences through it. The shallowness as well as the greatness.
Well, Sean, this has been a great interview. I thank you for making time for me. Thank you for everything you've done for the culture. We will be on the lookout for everything you have going on. This has been episode 66. That's Sean Bouldin. I am the journalist Sin-seer. Thank everybody for joining us this evening. Thanks again, Sean.
Yes, thank you. And Sin-seer, wait, before you leave, before we get kicked out of here, what's on your agenda? Tell us some more about you. I want to flip it for you.
Man, I'm just trying to interview all my heroes and, you know, get to know them during this time. This has been a blessing. Like you said, the COVID has not really stopped me one bit. It's actually let me flourish and get to know the people that, you know, I grew up on that help raise me, getting to love my family a lot more in these times. I'm just blessed, you know, so.
Yes, sir. Well, continue blessings. Thank you for the opportunity introducing me to your audiences. Thank your audience, and thanks my people who also chimed in. And I definitely want to say peace and blessings to you. Love the LA hat. And also, one thing I didn't mention, one of the things that we're going to explore is doing things more about, and we are the Bouldins, sharing different elements of our story and our experiences. And that's my experiences through 783, as well as my experiences as an executive working with Death Row, Interscope, BMI, DreamWorks, Virgin, TVT, all of the labels that I worked with and the artists that I worked with on those labels, and giving some insight on that. So look out for that as well.